It was here where I was given a chance at life, being conceived after my mother was violated at the age of 16. This is where I received my education and learned with hard work, discipline, and courage anything was possible. But things have changed. This is not the Oklahoma I remember. Over the last several years, I've seen fear, chaos, and division tear this nation apart through the efforts of communists and the apathy of Republicans in name only, who are either incapable or unwilling to do whatever it takes to protect our God-given rights. Election fraud, open borders, riots, unvetted Afghan.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another virtual town hall. I'm your host tonight, Dr. Mark Sherwood, 2022 gubernatorial candidate for the state of Oklahoma. We really enjoy these town hall because it gives us a chance to spread the message a little bit more broad. We cannot be everywhere, even though we want to be. So through the beauty of media, we're able to get out there and visit with you. So we want to really thank you for being here tonight with us. We have a very special guest, which I'll tell you about in just a moment, who probably needs no introduction, but I'll give him one anyway. And I want you to begin to formulate your questions tonight. We'll be monitoring the feed on Facebook Live. So if you go to Mark Sherwood for Oklahoma Governor page, this feed will be on there live, and you can actually ask questions throughout. And so a little bit of the format for tonight, once we get going and I introduce the guest, we'll go from probably 12 to 15 after the hour, and we'll go probably for 25, 30 minutes and begin to answer questions. And we'll try to close as quick as we can the top of the hour as well to respect your time. So we're grateful. Couple of updates, if you will. I always want to remind you of upcoming events, our app right here. You can see this, and many of you follow this. It's got a great saying on the front, never bow down to tyrants, defy them, and we'll understand that in its purest, most intentional form tonight. Clearly, as you recall, we've told you many times, tyranny is when the people fear the government, but oh my friends, freedom is when the government fears the people. So may our voice rise up, may it sound off, and may it be louder than ever before, so that freedom that we all know can ring once again. And remember, freedom is not a spectator sport. It's a participatory sport. You got to get in the game. You got to fight. You got to stand up. You got to let your voice be heard. If we don't get in the game, we become part of the problem. And it's not about just talking a good game. It's about your actions. The best sermons I've ever heard are not ones I hear with my ears, but ones I see with my eyes and I experience with my very soul. And so let us live out sermons each day. So remember to download our app. A couple of big events coming up. Just a couple of things. All of our events are listed right here on the page. You can see them. We got something literally every night. Tomorrow night, we'll be in McIntosh County, Eufaula, Oklahoma. Friday night, Pryor, Oklahoma. Saturday, we'll be in two locations, Waurika, which is Jefferson County, Oklahoma, and also Grady County a little bit later in the day. Sunday, I'll be preaching at No Limits Church in Owasso, Oklahoma. A lot of things going on next weekend. There's a town hall Sunday night as well, another virtual town hall. Next week, a lot of things, but highlighting next week on Saturday, June 11th, we'll be bringing in the musical artist Billy Falcon, who is well known for his rendition of a song, Never Surrender. Among other things, he's actually a songwriter for Bon Jovi, but he's actually a God-fearing, God-loving man with a great testimony, and he's going to come in and share in music and testimony a wonderful experience for us to enjoy that night at the Renaissance Hotel. Excuse me, bless that, in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And so we can't wait for you to be there. There's a registration online with all these events there as well. Now, also, if you want to keep up, you can download this app. Remember, it's Sherwood 2022, and you can download it many times and see what's going on the whole time. And remember, pay attention to all of our issues, which are here. We lay them out for you. What do you need to know? What do you wonder about? The questions you have, they're right here. We'll answer the questions for you, but we want to put our stance, our platforms right out here so you'll know. We believe that God's going to be honored. The Constitution's got to be protected, and people need to be represented correctly. And if we can't get that right, folks, we have no business and no opportunity to really hang on to this thing we call a republic. And as you'll hear from our guest later on here in just a moment, America, specifically the center part of America, represents the last best hope that we have as a world to have this experience of freedom the way it is. And we have to hang on to it. Now, with that said, I want to address two issues head on tonight before we get too far. First issue is the issue of abortion. As many of you know, we made national news last Friday night, and it has been nothing but a storm of every demon in hell has criticized what I said. And I said this, and I say it again, and I want you to get this. So I ask you to open your ears to hear right now, and your eyes to see, and your heart to receive something different. Life begins in God before it's conceived on earth. Let me say that one more time. Life begins in God before it's conceived on earth. Evidence that by scripture, Jeremiah 1:5, I knew you before you were created in your mama's womb. We see that all threaded throughout scripture, that God has a plan for each of us. I do not believe that any life's a mistake. As I sit and stand before you tonight, I'm a product of a violated situation. My mom was 16 at the time and doesn't remember any encounter with a man, but was impregnated by a man who's almost 20. We know what that is. Folks, I'm not a mistake. I want you to know that right offhand. And so no one's a mistake. So we stand strong in that. We do not support abortion. It's not about woman's rights to choose what she's doing with her body. It's about what we choose to do with another person's body. And that's God's decision, not ours. The second issue I want to talk about head on is the issue of these mass shootings. There's one going on right now in my home city, right now at the hospital, just a few miles from where I'm at. And 4 people are dead, is what I'm told, including the gunman. But we all know about what happened in Texas at Uvalde School, Robb Elementary. And I've been asked if I support the Second Amendment, and I do. I do not think removing guns is the answer. Actually, I think guns are part of the answer. If you look at how the gunmen are taken out, it's typically by guns. So guns do solve problems, and guns do help situations. I think the answer lies in multiple factors in multiple areas. Number one, it's not just simply arming teachers, although I do believe if a teacher feels compelled, trained, common sense, and they have confidence with that, with good competency, they should be allowed to carry. If you don't want to, that's okay. But I do believe schools should be secure. And I believe we should fulfill every resource we have to do that. Perhaps we should stop giving money away to countries far away and start securing our own borders, but much less securing the borders of these schools. These are our children. These are our future. When you lose your children, you lose your future. I was in Israel 25 years ago, and I saw a school that was guarded heavily by military, chain link fence, and razor wire at the top. Looked like a prison. And I didn't know what I was looking at until I asked the question, but I was told that it's important to guard the kids because the kids need to learn, and no one's going to come in and get our kids. At the time, I didn't really understand. But I did understand because being on the SWAT team and training in those situations, you hope to God it never happens. But here we are in the middle of mass shootings all over this great land we call these United States of America. And folks, we've got to get a hold of this. It's a new world we live in. Violence cannot be legislated away. You can't take evil out of man. The very first murder we had was by use of a rock. Cain killed Abel. Evil, murderous spirit is in the heart of all of us. And folks, we need to understand that we're all capable of anything. And only by the grace of God can we keep that in mind in our own lives. So with that said, I want you to understand that I'm committed as your next governor of the state of Oklahoma to protect these kids at all costs. We will pull out all the stops so that no bad guy, nobody with ill intents or bad motives with armed weapons, I don't care what you carry, you're not going to harm our kids. Because we're going to show you by the full force of everything we come up with that you will not harm one child. And you'll be overwhelmed so badly that you won't even think about coming in there. And I really mean what I'm saying. We got to protect our future. School should be a haven of learning, not indoctrination, but a haven of learning and learning to respect, learning to show up to work on time, pay your bills. We should be displaying the 10 Commandments, having in God we trust there, talking about our government, civics classes, the Constitution, and not forbidding Judeo-Christian principles from being taught. Folks, we live in a world of violence, but let's understand that you can't take guns out of the world and refrain from violence, because violence came before guns. Remember, guns came after violence entered mankind. So let us keep that in mind tonight as we have all these tragedies going on. And most importantly, let us pray that we see God's hand of peace upon all these victims and their families. And that his hand is magnified. His name is magnified throughout this earth. And he provides comfort and peace in the only way he can do it. And God, we thank you that you're going to do that for all these people tonight in Jesus' name. And I pray that we learn something from this so that it never happens again in these United States. With that said, I'm going to take a moment to introduce our guest. I was in the great state of Michigan, I believe. I could be wrong about that. We travel so much. And I watched our guest tonight get on the platform, and I watched him speak to people with a passion that I was immediately drawn to. And I want to know about this man. And so I began to ask questions. And I heard he's a pastor from Canada. And he's here because he's going to get arrested when he goes back, because his church is being terrorized by tyranny, a tyrannical government, who calls him a threat because he just wants to worship God, pray for people, and feed the sick. And I met this man that night, shook his hand and got his number. And since then, he has been through all kinds of turmoil, all kinds of trouble. Again, he's from the great nation of Canada. His church is called Street Church. And without further ado, I want to introduce my guest tonight, Pastor Artur Pawlowski. Art, thanks for being here, man.
Thank you so much for having me in. Yes, I was immediately arrested upon arrival. When we've met, I was told by a number of people prophesying over me that I'm going to be arrested. And also I knew inside that they're just not going to let me off the hook, that I'm going to be attacked again. And they arrested me at the tarmac, right coming out of the plane. The police officers were hiding like gangsters in a customs office. I was handcuffed, taken to police detention center, and I was criminally charged. And listen to this: for inciting people to come to church, officiating an illegal gathering, and participating in illegal gathering, and not wearing a muzzle. Of course, all of those things are because I kept the church going, and I kept feeding thousands of most vulnerable people on the streets of Calgary, which we still do. We've never shut down. 5 times a week, we are on the streets of Calgary and in a building, continuing what God called us to do. And for that, horrible crimes, in quote, I was arrested 16 times so far, over 100 court cases and 340 citations, 40 COVID tickets, and I'm facing 6 or 7 criminal courts, criminal charges, including terrorism.
I remember when I saw you, it was a Saturday night, and I mentioned to you, I asked a question, when are you going back? And I think you said Monday. And you said to me, I'm going to be arrested as soon as I get home. And I looked at you, and I got to tell you, you kind of went on and mingled with the crowd, and 2 things happened. Number one, my heart sank because I felt bad because I kind of wanted to take your place, because I didn't want you to go through that. The second thing that happened, I got a little bit angry because I thought to myself, I can't believe that the pastors here in this great nation closed. And that was just like, I had both of those emotions there, Art. And then I watched in horror as you were arrested. I watched it on video, like a lot of people, millions of people did around this world, actually. And I was shocked. And the first thing that I thought at that point was, that's coming to America. This is a warning for America. Art, talk about that.
Yes, as you can tell very quickly, I grew up behind the Iron Curtain under the boots of the Soviets in Poland. So Poland is a very peculiar nation because not only we grew up under the boots of the Soviets, but I have also been bombarded with the stories from our older generation. I grew up in a city that had a concentration camp. We were as kids playing in the bunkers of the SS. I visited Auschwitz-Birkenau, the biggest concentration camp on earth, many times, Treblinka and other places as well, Majdanek. And I've heard the stories from my grandparents about the Nazis, about the Gestapo, about the brown shirts, about all the atrocities that they have done. Also, I have seen firsthand with my own eyes what communism and socialism does, enslaves people. And you got to remember, which I believe that's why God is using me with, with my, funny accents and being born under communist dictatorship behind the Iron Curtain. I think he wants to use me because I cannot be easily fooled. I can smell tyranny from miles away, and it scares me. And it should scare you as well, because tyrants have no regards for life. Tyrants are like cancer that takes and will keep taking until you're dead. They're not even leeches. They're not even ticks, because you see, ticks and leeches want to keep you alive so they can keep sucking out of your blood. Those are bloody hyenas, and they want to murder you. And that's what they're doing right now. They're murdering elderly. They're murdering disabled people. They're eliminating opposition left and right, just like the Nazis did under Hitler. One very important thing, because when I was in United States, and by the way, I love United States of America, and I want to just address those two things you started this program with. Abortion, murdering children. If a society or parents or mother is capable of murdering her own child, her own baby, can you imagine what she's going to do to you? Can you imagine what he or she can do to you if there's no problem with those individuals murdering their own flesh and blood? Another thing is, both our nations are Protestant nation. And let me remind you, the Nazi Germany was a Protestant nation. And look what they have done. When I was in the States, quite often I would hear about the Declaration of Independence. I would hear about the Constitution of United States of America. And many people, for whatever reason, they think, oh, we're covered. The documents are going to protect us. The piece of paper is going to protect us. Listen, Polish people, Poland was the second nation on earth that implemented constitution right after United States of America. Germans didn't care about our constitution. The communists didn't care about our constitution. You see, tyrants do not care about your piece of paper. You have to care about your piece of paper. You see, how democracy or republic survives when good men and women are willing to rise up, stand up and say, not an inch, tyrants, you're not pharaohs and we're not your slaves. And that's what I also witnessed in Poland. And I think that's why my story is so fascinating and captured the hearts and the minds of multiple millions of people around the world, because I've seen two things. I've seen the atrocities of tyrants wiping out my nation, raping it inside out. You could be arrested for just possessing a pamphlet that was contrary to the party line. You could be beaten, tortured without trial, sentenced to 5 years just for listening to the radio, a European radio outside of the communist bloc, because we were living behind the Iron Curtain. So the story fascinates people, because I also saw something so powerful that I have chills even to this day. 1980, I saw millions of Poles under solidarity movement with Lech Wałęsa coming to the streets and saying a very simple thing. Wait a second, there is more of us than of them. Why they are enslaving us? Like, wait a second, who is Biden? Who is this uncircumcised Philistine that should defy the armies of the living God? Who are those uncircumcised devils? Clintons, Obamas, Fauci, Pinocchios, liars, deceivers, bloody murderers. Who they think they are? You see, they think they're the pharaohs and you're the slaves. That's why I'm so happy, Mark, that you're running for the position of a governor, because, oh my God, if you could win, would that be a breather for the people, for liberty, for religious rights? Because the moment your religious rights go, mark my words, I study history and I teach history and theology in our church. The moment freedom of religion is gone, all other liberties follow. The moment the moment freedom of religion is taken down, every other liberty is out the window. So I saw millions of people finally taking it to the streets, and they did not use guns, they did not use swords, they did not burn down police stations and city halls. What they did, they simply came together under the banner of freedom, under the banner of patriotism, Poles taking it to the streets, saying, we shall not cooperate with you anymore. We will not participate in this experiment. We will not we will not work for the tyrants, and they paralyzed the entire system. Within the first year, we had 1 million people joining Solidarity Movement of Poland. Within 2 next years, it was outlawed by the Communist Party of Poland, and it grew to 3 million people. Within few years, we have 10 million Poles strong. 1989, the Berlin Wall was taken down, and Iron Curtain was broken, and Poland once again had free and democratic voting system. We were actually electing our presidents. We had the first election since the occupation of the Nazis and then later on communists. We've lost election. Our elections are tainted. They are lying, they're cheating. I believe both of our elections, because both of our elections were using the Dominion machines, were manipulated. I do not believe those people were democratically elected. Here you go. I said it. I do not believe that they have won the election. I believe they have stolen the election, including our Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, or I should say Justin Castro, because we all know he's the son of Fidel Castro. So the same with Biden. He cheated. He stole your election. So how you deal with that? The only way you can deal with this problem is by coming together in unity and supporting people like you. I mean, if we will not rise up, embracing people like you that want to be the light in the darkness, then there is no hope. If we, good men and good men in our countries, will not come and support people like you that are willing to put their heads on the chopping block, if you will, because politics is horrible. It's a horrible place to be. That's why those people are depressed, hooked on drugs and alcohol all the time. They're not happy people. And I know, because I had for many years friends as ministers and all kinds of high-ranking politicians. So I know how miserable some of them are without Christ. So that's a little bit of a story, and it caught the eyes of millions of people around the world, because here was a Polish immigrant and nobody in quote in the eyes of the government, and yet somebody in the eyes of God. And the only thing I needed to do is to stand strong on my God and state given rights and say, get out of my church, get out of my restaurant, get out of my school, get out of my business. Who do you think you people are that you should do this to me? I'm a free citizen, born free, set free by my Jesus Christ. I'm not going to allow some Biden or a liar Fauci or whatever the name you can add to it to enslave me once again.
Art, you've seen the movement that has been captured from your standing up. What have you seen in the nation of Canada in regard to response of you standing up from a positive side?
I mean, I have been contacted by so many tens of thousands of people saying to me a simple thing, said, when I watch you do it, when your simple words, because what did I say? I did not give them elaborate, preaching and, a history lesson. I do that when I preach in a church or I do rallies. What I did, I just stood up for what's rightfully mine. And when I was in the United States of America, and when I talk to Canadians, I ask them the same question: whose land is this? I mean, seriously, Mark, the land you walk on, who owns it? Whose land, whose country is United States of America, if not yours? And people like you, I mean, those tyrants, they think they own it all.
Yeah.
And they're going to rob you from everything. I mean, they're not even hiding their agenda. They are telling you and me, you will own nothing and you will be happy, while they will own everything. And I guess they will be extremely unhappy. So they're telling you what is their plan. They're telling you they're going to enslave you. They're going to steal from you, rob you, rape you, and murder your loved ones if they will think they are, they are unwanted or useful, unuseful. How you say that? unwanted individuals like the Nazi Germany did during the Hitler's era, when he called those people useless eaters. I think that's how he called them. That's what I was looking for. People that are unwanted, not needed, and should be eliminated. So according to the government, they're looking at you, and if they will not like you, off you go to a concentration camp. And if they think you are unwanted anymore and you're just taking a space, off you go to a special unit in the hospital. And just because you're disabled or you're elderly or simply someone that they want to get rid of, off you go out of this earth. I mean, this is what they're doing with this job stuff, with the manipulation, misinformation, deplatforming, censorship. Why do you think Goebbels was so successful, the propaganda minister for Adolf Hitler? Because he said it right in front of our eyes. He says, propaganda, propaganda, propaganda. What it matters is just propaganda. Make the lie big. Keep repeating it over and over again. Is that not what we were subjected to for the past 2 years?
Yeah.
The same repetition, like a prayer, like a mantra, over and over. They would tell us follow the science. When we would follow the science, off we are deplatformed, off we are censored. So it's not about science. It's not about biology. It's not about a medical, being a doctor or a nurse. This is indoctrination. That's what they're doing right now. Propaganda. Make the lie big. Oh, they have made the lie huge. Keep repeating it over and over again, and people will believe it. So many people are believing it. However, the more they're pushing arrests, infringement on our rights, human rights violations, all those different things, the more they're pushing, the more people are rising up. Their eyes are being opened more and more. I've never seen more wake people than I'm seeing right now in the States, in Australia, in Europe, and in Canada as well. So that's why Trudeau also knows that. Trudeau is a liar, a prime minister, a tyrant. He knows that people are being awake. The truck convoy brought over 1 million people together. That's why I was arrested, because I have become a truck convoy's pastor, freedom pastor, and I gave a speech at Montana-Alberta border, telling people, telling Americans, telling Canadians, the whole world, stand your ground, do not break the line, fight for your rights, fight for your freedom. So RCMP, it's like your FBI, came to my house. I was arrested and carried to the police and then detention center, and I spent 51 days facing right now terrorism charges for my church speech in Coutts and in Milk River. So Trudeau knows that there's millions rising up. So what does he do? Well, he outlaws guns. And if you know anything about history, you know tyrants always disarm their citizens. Why? Because they don't want any opposition. And they're telling us that this is to protect us. However, I'm a pastor and I feed people on the streets of Calgary. Do you know, Mark, that I can buy machine guns, bazooka, I can buy hand pistols, revolvers on the streets from the gangsters? Gangsters do not follow the law. No. Gangsters don't care about Trudeau prohibition on ammunition or prohibition on handguns. They don't care about stuff. Every one of them is carrying a piece. You see what they're doing. They're not attacking the real criminals. And we know that. You know that. Yeah. They are disarming good, law-abiding, patriotic citizens that would oppose their tyranny. To have a gun in Canada, you got to apply for a permit. You have to have a clean criminal record. You have to follow strict restrictions. You got to lock your gun in a special case. You have to keep your ammunition in different places. It's not fun. It's actually, they have put lots of regulations for us Canadians to have a pistol or a revolver. So this is not about keeping us safe. This is to disarm good people. So when finally his final solution comes, just like his role model, Fidel Castro, his father, or Führer, then there will be very little opposition. That's what the whole thing is all about. Don't kid yourself. The game is a repeat, paste, and copy, paste, and copy.
Yeah, interesting. I was looking at a picture just today in preparation for our time, and I saw it was a picture of like a wheelbarrow, and it had a picture of like, well, had like rings, and they were in there, and it was like the caption was, before they took their rings, they took their guns. And this was the idea before the concentration camp. And, that's what's happening in America. And I pledge this art to people. I would have never locked this down one time. I would have not even went near the church because the government needs to stay out of the church. No authority. These are unconstitutional, ungodly rules from people that don't care. And so, like you, I'm sick and tired of it, will not follow it, and will encourage people to not follow the tyrannical rules that we see. Art, I got to ask you, and I know you get asked this a lot, all those arrests and all those fines and all the days of incarceration, was it worth it to you, and would you do it again?
100%. I would say to you that this was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in Canada. Seeing those hundreds of thousands of Canadians coming together, I've seen them with different colors, different creeds, different backgrounds, broken English like me, coming together with children, barbecues, chili, food, support, coming together at the border, and then going to Ottawa. I've never seen something like this before. And when I was asked by the organizers to become their pastor, it was the greatest privilege anyone asked me to be part of. Like, imagine going to a church service where you have thousands of the most beautiful, amazing, peaceful, patriotic people that they are in your country. I mean, I don't know who was blessed greatly, them or me, who was impacted more, me or them. But I'm telling you, I cherished every second of that time being there. I conducted a church service, actually few of them in Calgary. When they came on the way to Ottawa, our church was able to feed them. And then I was in Milk River. I did a church service for them and a Lord's Supper right there. Beautiful, amazing people. And then I was taken, and by the way, our CMP allowed me to go through the barricade. They knew how I was. They monitored me. They recorded me. And they let me go to Coutts, to the border crossing between Montana and Alberta, where I did the same thing. We had the Lord's Supper. I gave a speech. And during that speech, I told them 19-minute speech. I told them 3 times, no guns. This is a peaceful revolution. This is not swords. This is not solidarity movement style. This is Mahatma Gandhi style. This is Martin Luther King Jr. civil rights movement style. Non-cooperation. Just simply do not cooperate with the villains, because that's what they are. They are the real mafia. They are the real gangsters. And I'm telling you, people were crying. They were coming to me. We had 15 to 20,000 people every week on the streets of Calgary. And I've never seen something more beautiful to say right now, just to save my skin and come out of this gallows, that I regret something that it was a privilege for me to be part of. It would turn me into them. And I'm not them. I'm not schizophrenic politician that lies to the people every time he opens his mouth, and he means totally different. It's like our politicians. Jason Kenney, the premier of Alberta, is like governor in your state. So Governor Premier Jason Kenney arrested me and said that Artur Pawlowski was, his speech was encouraging violence towards other people, and arrested me and my brother David in the middle of the highway by SWAT team. And then the next day or 2 days after, throws a party for his cabinet ministers, a whiskey party, is caught red-handed, breaking the same mandates, the same regulations, and somehow he's not charged, somehow he's not arrested, somehow his own mandates that he used as a pretense to arrest us and throw us in prison as pastors, clergymen. He broke the same thing, but it's one law for me, one law for thee. So we know this is not about science. This is not about keeping us safe. This is about control. This is about tyranny. Those people have a plan. They're implementing their plan, and they need to eliminate patriotism. They need to eliminate the guns, so the
Yeah.
protection from the people, and economy. What is happening right now in the United States of America, Canada, and Western countries is a crushing of economy. They don't want you to be able to hire lawyers. They don't want you to be able to fight, illegally with them. They want to starve you to death. They want to create a society that father and mother have to go to work 10, 12 hours a day just to pay for the bills and a piece of bread.
Yeah.
People that are hammered financially, they cannot go to rallies, they cannot protest, they cannot do anything. They're enslaved. Patriotism. And that's why I believe that Trump has been hammered left and right, and anyone that supports Donald Trump has been hammered left and right, because he became, and he is, I believe to this day, he is a symbol of patriotism. He's a symbol of I am an American. Make America great again is not just a cliche. I truly believe that this man and the people around him want America to become great again, a strong and free and patriotic. When a man works and a woman, or other way around, whatever works for your family, works, and then the other parent can take care of children. And it's like American dream is a good dream. It's a beautiful dream, but you have to cherish that dream. You have to work hard to keep that dream, and you have to protect that dream, because they hate it. The villains hate that dream.
Well, they do. And I don't want to encourage people. I'm monitoring the feed here, and just keep those questions coming. There's a bunch of folks on here, so just keep the questions coming. And here in a couple moments, we'll open it up, and I'll just transfer some of these questions to Art. You can ask him live. So just, again, keep them coming that way. I'll get to them here in probably 4 or 5 minutes. And you said something key there, Art. Now, I want to tag onto that. The idea of patriotism, the dream of patriotism, it's being suppressed right now to the max, so that we won't remember. The federal government right now, even the agenda globalists of this world, they want to get us about this far above dead, so that we become helpless. We become completely just defenseless, and we become so dependent upon someone else to take care of us for our food, our water, our shelter, our money, our provision, our safety, the whole bit. And that's the agenda, folks. And so I hope you're hearing this tonight. You got to stand up and step up, even if it costs your life. We're at that moment in time right now where we have no choice. And it doesn't mean to stand up and bear arms, but it means to stand up and not give up your guns, and stand up with a confidence that you will not back down to this idea of tyranny. Now, Art, you're seeing this happen from a global view. And there are people listening right now that might be saying, come on, that's not happening in America. Speak to that, will you?
Well, if you really think it's not happening in America, I encourage you to go to New York or to other states. I have traveled all around the United States of America. As you know, I spent 4 months in your amazing, beautiful nation, and I've seen it all. I've seen the propaganda. I was invited to all kinds of meetings, including one of the biggest TV stations in the United States of America. I was in California many times. I was in Texas. I was all over the place. And I'm telling you, it's happening left and right. In some places, a little bit more, in others, a little bit less. But the agenda is the same. Here in Canada, and I want everyone to listen to me very carefully, we are already living behind the Iron Curtain. Yeah. I call this nation China, because it looks more and more like China, less and less like Canada, that I came to love. And I emigrated here with my family for one purpose, not for money. I emigrated here for freedom, because my country, Poland, would not allow me to be a free man. And then when we emigrated to Greece, Canada opened its borders, and I remember the meeting in embassy, and they said, come to Canada. Canada is the freest country on earth, and in Canada no one will ever persecute you for your faith. And here I am, over 100 court cases, 16 arrests, 340 tickets, and facing right now multiple trials and about a dozen criminal charges. And excuse me, for what have I done that was so bad? I feed the poor. It's Someone has to feed the poor. I run a soup kitchen for the most vulnerable in our society, and that's unacceptable for the communists, because you see, communists, you got to understand, communists, fascism, every totalitarian regime wants you to worship them. Whatever
Yep.
they say, it becomes the law. Whatever Fauci comes and says on television, automatically has to become a law. His suggestions are becoming a law. That's what they want. They want to enslave you. So if you don't see that, then I guess you have hit your head too many times and it's not working properly. Sorry, you need healing. And if you need that, call me. I'll lay hands on you and I'll pray for you, because your eyes need to be open and your brain has to start functioning properly again. Either you were indoctrinated or brainwashed too many times that you don't see that. They're implementing this globally. That's the scary part. However, because of COVID hysteria, or COVID lie, if you will, they have made themselves vulnerable. They exposed themselves. Now we know how corrupted the system is. And I'm talking about every mountain of influence, from educational system that is not educating our children anymore, is indoctrinating our children, banking system that is not really helping us to achieve our goals, but is in controlling and enslaving us, from the government that should, all those people, we call them the public servants, they're not serving us, they're serving just themselves. Then we're talking about justice system that is just a system. Justice has been kicked out. Then we're talking about reporters. They should report the story, the newscasts, we call them, but they're not reporting anymore. I call them cooks, because they're cooking story up. They're cooks. They're not reporters anymore. They're not telling you, okay, this is what happened, and they let the viewer make up his own mind of what we are showing them. No, they're cooking stuff. They are lying. And what they're cooking is poisonous, is a lie after lie, is misinformation, disinformation, and it's propaganda. It's pure propaganda. So, and now our police officers, the so-called peace officers, have nothing to do with peace anymore. They're the gangsters. They are the real muscle for the mafia right now, and that's the saddest part, I think, out of the whole story. Look at our doctors.
Yeah.
They swore to protect their patients. I want to believe that they become doctors or nurses because they wanted to save lives. They wanted to heal people, but they're bloody murderers right now. So every mountain of influence is crumbling left and right. And that's a good thing at this moment, because right now we know how big of a problem we're facing. Now, you see, the first thing to fix your problem, you got to know you have a problem. So by now, I think everyone that has his eye or her eyes open knows there is a huge problem. So that's the first step, acknowledging we have a big problem. And then the next step is how we're going to address this problem, and then let's go and address it. And I think you're doing that by running for the position of the governor. You want to address and fix the problem. And you said it right here in front of our own eyes, and I've heard you clear. If you were the governor, you would never lock us up. You would never mask us like animals and lie to us. You would protect our liberties. Why? Because the moment our liberty go, the liberty of your children and your grandchildren go as well. You see, listen to the guy that grew up in hell. No one was happy. Communists were not happy as well. 50,000 communist tyrants were ruling over 36 million Polish people, and the whole nation was in hell. Yes, they had more incentives. Yes, they had more money and different, better food than the rest of us, but they themselves were living in hell.
Yeah.
I don't care how rich you are. If you're in hell, you're in hell. So in the end of the day, what I'm trying to say, everyone loses. The tyrants. Joseph Stalin called those types of people a very interesting name. He called them useful idiots. And that's the devil. The devil will use you. The devil will abuse you. The devil will cheat and will discard you like unwanted, filthy rag. That's what he does. So he uses those police officers, and then he throws them like a piece of garbage. He uses those corrupted, officials, the politicians, and then he discards them, hooked on drugs, alcohol, or sex scandals, and the doctors and the nurses and so on, the teachers. So it's happening in front of our eyes. Now the question is this. Now we know we have a problem. Now we see it in front of our eyes. But the question is, what are we going to do about it? We gotta unite. We gotta come and support people like you in the political area. We have to run or become teachers. We have to become politicians. We have to become bankers. We have to become people of influence so we can start bringing the light of influence into a very corrupted, dark place. This is not the time to enjoy your vacations, Americans. This is not the time to relax because some mandates have been taken down, because they are going to come back again. Cancer. Yes. What I know about cancer is cancer, sometimes it stops only to move with a double force later on. It needs to be cut out. Those people that have done this to us, and I like Ezra Levant. Ezra Levant is a Rebel News a head guy that created independent news, because all of our news are taken by the government and paid by the government. We don't have independent news anymore. We have state paid news. So he created a Rebel News, and he's telling us the other side of the story. And he was having this saying for the past 2 years, virus didn't do this to us. People did this to us. Keep that in mind. Keep that in perspective. It was the police. It was the sheriffs. It was the governors. It was the mayors. It was the media personalities. It was the teachers. It was the doctors, the nurses. Remember their names, my friends, because there must be a time when we're going to make those people accountable. Why is this important? Because if they can get away with this, they're going to come back for more later on. Those types of people never stop. If they can get away with the murder today, they will come back to pillage and to murder tomorrow. Remember their names. When the time comes, when you become the governor of Oklahoma, I hope you're going to go after the villains that have done to their own people. For what? For incentives? For a little bit of a bigger paycheck? To keep my job? Just like the Nazis did? I remember the documentary when the Nazis, the SS, were asked this simple question: why did you do it? Why did you shoot people in the head, mothers and children? Why did you guard the concentration camps? Why did you do it? And they would say, well, I was just following orders. I was doing what I was being told. If I didn't do it, it would be me. It would be better, sir, to be you than to have countless lives on your conscience. Because here is what I know, that one day you're going to be dead. That's a guarantee. You're going to be dead. And then you're going to stand before the living God, and you will give an account for how you lived your life on this side of eternity. And that should scare you. When I, as a pastor, when I am conducting myself and my affairs, I always have this back in my mind that one day I will be accountable to my God for everything I have done and how I managed the gifts that God gave me. I cannot sell my Jesus for a bowl of soup like Esav did, or take 30 shekels of silver just because. You know, you keep your silver and you keep your soup. I'm keeping my Jesus, because my Jesus, if he wants, he's not only going to give me 30 shekels of silver, he's going to give me 30 ounces of gold, if that's what he wants.
Art, people are asking on here, how do people get a hold of you and support you?
Well, if you want to help us, that would be fantastic, because support kind of went down for whatever reason. People went vacationing and, traveling, and it's nice weather, so maybe they went back to their lives. So I greatly appreciate any support we can get. You can go to www.streetchurch.ca, streetchurch.ca. It's a website. And you can use e-transfer, ART, at streetchurch.ca. You can use PayPal, over there. So credit cards and debit cards. You can even donate with cryptocurrency right now, because I guess that's the new, which don't ask me, I don't really understand that concept, but it is what it is. 21st century, we're moving towards the revelations, we're moving towards the fulfillment of what Jesus told us, what is going to happen. So exciting times, I'm telling you, as bad as it is and as huge the enemy has become, God is raising up his champions. I see David's rising up. I see Esther's standing up and saying, for such a time as this, if I perish, I perish. I see Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego telling the rulers, we shall not bow before your golden muzzle or golden virus or whatever you want to call that crazy lie. We will not bow. And God is perfectly capable, if he wants to rescue us in the middle of the fire, if he wants to do that. I love the apostles' reply in a book of Acts chapter 4. Yeah. You be the judges whom we are to obey, God or men. In chapter 5, they're more precise, and this is what they say: we must obey God rather than men.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned www.streetchurch.ca, correct?
That's right, for Canada.
I'm going to make sure that goes in the feed here. And folks, listen to me. You hear the voice of the Lord. And if he tells you to give something, you need to give. Be obedient, like right now, because that's important. And support the work of the Lord. This is good ground, Pastor Artur Pawlowski. It's good ground because I know the man. So as we wrap up our time tonight, and people, I want to encourage you on the app right now to just tell Pastor Art how grateful you are for him. So just go ahead and fill up the whole feed here for Art Pawlowski. I want you to do that. And just, it's important to me that you do that because he is standing up for the right things as an example. Art, we talked about before we went live, and I want you to comment on this. There were 56 people that signed the Declaration of Independence, not 5,600. Why is it important that only a few people stand up?
I remember when I was in the States, it was 4th of July, and I was asked to speak at the church for that service. And I prayed and I said, God, this is their greatest celebration, is a very important Memorial Day, and you want me with my broken English to speak? I can't ignore this day. So you better give me, what you want me to talk about. So I did pick the independence, the Declaration of Independence. I read the whole thing. Yeah. And then I did my study, and I delivered a historical lesson on the Declaration of Independence, the revolution of 1776, and the taxation without representation. Majority of those people that did sign the document died.
Yeah,
they were murdered. They died. They paid the ultimate price for your freedom today. So God, most of the time, he's not using masses. He is using individuals, and he is raising courageous people left and right to show the whole world, the Gideons, if you will, or Esther's, or Deborah's, or Joshua's, or Caleb's, or the apostles, to show the whole world that it's not by might, not by power, not by guns and swords that we can win this fight, by courage. What we have been subjected to was terror and fear. And the enemy is very good at terrorizing us and blanketing the whole earth with fear. But courage, now listen to me carefully, courage is contagious. If you will rise up, stand up in your neighborhood, in your community, in your city, in your state, and you're going to say, like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, to the pharaohs of today, to the Nebuchadnezzars of today, we shall not bow. No matter what you will do to me, we will not bow, because this is not about us. The whole thing is not about you and me. The whole thing is about God and the kingdom of God. When they see you rising up, standing and shining with courage, the spines of others are going to be they will come together stronger, and they're going to do the same thing that you have done. I had tens of, if not hundreds of thousands of people since last year contacting me, and they said, because you did what you did, because I watched the Get Out video, because you stood, even though you were arrested without mercy, and then I was sentenced, sent to prison, then psych ward, then max pen. I was in a solitary confinement. I was tortured on concrete. They put me in metal boxes. They've done stuff to me to break me. And because I didn't, because my God is stronger than all of those minions of the devil combined together, they said, because you did it, now I can do it as well. Because in the end of the day, Mark, we're just people. We're no different than an average Joe outside of our door. What's different is that we know who our God is. And the most important thing for us on this side of eternity is this: do you know who your God is? If you knew how big is your God, if you knew that enemy is nothing in comparison to our Creator, if you knew that if God is for us, who can be against us? Greater is He that is in me than the one that is in them. You would never shut down your church. You would never shut down your restaurant. Also, you have to know who you are in God. David, facing the giants, the biggest champion on earth at that time, he knew who his God was, and he knew who he was in God. That's why he could say to this big fella, who do you think you are, you uncircumcised Philistine, that you should defy the armies of the living God? This day I'm going to chop your head off, and not just yours, but also your bodies. You see, David was a peculiar man. Joshua, Caleb, Esther, Deborah, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, Daniel, apostles, all those heroes of old had courage. So I will pray right now, God, give those that are listening and watching this courage, courage that will move mountains, courage that will face the giants of the land, saying the same thing that David did, courage that will spread like a wildfire and encourage multitudes to rise up, to stand up and be the voice crying out in the wilderness. This is the time for the church to shine. This is the time for the church to be what God intended the church to be.
Art Pawlowski, I'm amazed, and I want to thank you for, first of all, being my friend, being someone that I look up to and appreciate and honor, and the courage that you've exhibited has inspired me. And I want to thank you for that, because it has. It's been a definite impact on my life. And hang with me here. I'm going to give a couple of closing remarks before we dismiss. And folks, I want to remind you to thank Art Pawlowski, www.streetchurch.ca. Get on there and support this man. You saw courage. And I will tell you right now, as I talk to you right now, I am not stepping into this role as your next governor to please any man. I'm going to this role to please God and God alone. And I will not compromise, nor my wife. We stand together in this. We will not compromise our principles. We will not play the little boys club game. We will not do what everybody else does. We will not run this office like everybody else did. We will not play in that same box, but we will create a brand new box, a box of freedom. We will encourage you, the people, to stand up and be heard. We will push smaller government and bigger people. We will not dismiss you because you live in the country, because you don't have 2 cents to your name. You, sir, ma'am, you are just as valuable as somebody that has $2 million US. Every human being is important, and we will represent you with honor and dignity and courage. And we will step up and we'll step out there, no matter what the cost, to protect these freedoms. I do not mind going in the door first, as I did many years in the SWAT team. We'll continue to do that, no matter what the cost. We don't need this job. We're doing this job because we're called to do it. And we don't hesitate from that call. We haven't backed up one bit. We will not back up one bit. No matter how the criticism comes our way, it has done nothing more than catapult me forward like jet fuel. So criticism, bring it on. I don't care who you are. I don't care how many demons in hell come at us. We're going to stand up strong and do the right thing regardless. And we're going to see the mountains move. We're going to see the walls come down. We're going to see all the giants flee like a bunch of grasshoppers before us. They're going to run off because we, the people, will be heard again. So with that said, folks, I want to encourage you to get out and vote on June 28th. That's the primary. We need you to get out and vote. Share this message, share this word, share this video, share Pastor Art's story. Do what you got to do to share the message of courage and hope. Because without hope, we can't have life. And without freedom, we can't have hope. And without God, we can't have either. So we need to get back to the basic principles and not dishonor God anymore, because he himself gave the very principles to us, our founding fathers, that set the tone and set the stage for the origination of the writings called the Constitution. And the Bill of Rights were not granted by the Constitution. They were granted by God. And we've got to catch this, folks. And I want us to stand on those things like we've never stood before. And let's believe that the impossible is going to be achieved. So June 28th is the primary. Get out there and vote. Our website's Sherwood2022.com. And look at the events, look at the calendar and see what's up. And we can't wait to meet you on the road. We can't wait to give you a mask-free, social distancing violating hug. And we'll do that readily because we have no problem with that. So folks, from my wife, Michelle, and I, we truly, truly love you. May the God of gods, the only God that created us all, may he bless you, may he bless your family, and may God bless these United States of America.
We have up is down, left is right, back, good, confusion. And God is not the author of confusion.
God wants to bless America, but it starts with his people first, repenting and the ending of sin.
We have been in ministry the last 20 years. It was in prayer that the Lord began to convict me to run for office. And so I'm excited about Dr. Sherwood.
This is a man after God's own heart. Will not compromise with the devil.
He's bold, he's courageous.
Warren
Hamilton.
I'm Jake Merrick,
and I endorse
enthusiastically
Dr. Mark Sherwood
as governor of Oklahoma.
The ending of slavery with full abolishing of it. We need for abortion. It's America's Holocaust.
We still have abortions in Oklahoma. How can you be pro-life and have one abortion? Why not stand? I make a commitment right now that I'm going to do everything I can to completely abolish abortion in the state of Oklahoma within the first 30 days of office.
Vaccine mandates that are being rolled out right now are entirely unconstitutional and unbiblical. Every state that's a member of these United States, that's a member of our union, about the Constitution. That's why we don't tinker with it too much.
So I believe the word mandate doesn't equate to law. I am a big believer in the 10th Amendment, and that means state sovereignty. I would propose that every single business owner in Oklahoma that's affected by that ridiculous mandate push back and say no, because they don't own you. The federal government does not own you. We need to own that amendment, understand where and be afraid to push back.
We have to understand where critical race theory came from. Obviously, it comes from the Marxist handbook. And if we preach this and promote this, we end up a Marxist nation. It is not social justice. It is not anti-racism. It's actually racism in its purest form. The very thing Martin Luther King Jr. talked about, we're not going to allow this to be taught where we judge by the color of our skin.
There's one race. It's called the human race. I'm not going to apologize for being white. I'm not even white. I don't even know what I am. Kids in school need to be taught how to live life. Right now, we're teaching them theories about how to hate. That's not education, that's brainwashing. We will not do that under my administration. We will fine every school that does that. And if they don't like it, they can take their education and find another state that will accept that nonsense. People all need to be healed. Our state needs to be healed, our land needs to be healed, the economy needs to be healed, and our confidence needs to be healed. Our hope needs to be restored. God has gifted us as healers. We know that we're called to not just heal people individually like we do, but we know now we're called to heal a group of people called the state of Oklahoma. My name is Mark Sherwood, and I'm running for governor of the state of Oklahoma.